Hey everybody, welcome back to the All-In Ape and Bird NFT show. We have the dictator. I am still rolling with different intros. I think that was the JCal special there, Steve. One of your boys, Jason Calacanis. So shout out to JCal.
We want you off the pod.
Welcome to episode 19, Ape and Bird
Ooh.
Listeners. We have a special show for you today. We are what, Steve? Well, I should say welcome to you, Steve, but we are only, less than an hour away from Ethereum's historical transition from proof of work to proof of stake, aka the merge. How are you feeling about it?
Ooh. Yeah, it's fine. I just had a look. We're 1 hour and 6 minutes away.
Okay.
The thing is, nothing's meant to happen, really. For anyone watching, it should, if it works perfectly, you should assume that nothing has happened at all, and you will just continue on using the Ethereum network as you always have. So my hope is that this is a nothing burger. Just, it happens, it's fine, and tomorrow everything's running smooth. And we're done. And then it'll be interesting to see where it goes from there. I think a lot of people are playing the price. They might dump after the merge, or they've already dumped. But yeah, we're just that 1 hour to go. I don't know how you can actually watch it. Like, is there a way to watch the merge?
There is.
Like, look at
crypto
stuff.
Crypto Twitter has been on fire today. I am absolutely excited by this because the energy on Twitter has been awesome all day. The memes, shout out the Bankless team. If you're not following Bankless on Twitter, you are missing out. They have got some of the best memes happening, and just across the board, I'm loving the energy. It's giving me like 2021 vibes right now, just on this sort of historical moment. So I'm embracing it, and I think it's I agree with you, Steve, in terms of if we wake up tomorrow and it's essentially business as usual and aka a nothing burger. I think that's a good thing, but in the grand context of things and the macro, I think it's more than a nothing burger. I think it's a Big Mac. It's a Whopper, because we are now moving to the eco-friendly proof of stake. The amount of conversations that you always have to play defensive around NFTs because Ethereum's quote unquote killing the environment or ESG.
They'll find something else to complain about.
Of course they will find other things, but it's one less thing and it's one less hot topic, right? No pun intended for climate change, but this has been a big barrier for many businesses to get involved with NFTs, and so I'm really, really excited by this switch. And let's see how it goes. Right? Hopefully, our JPEGs are still worth something tomorrow.
Well, that's the one thing that I think this merge will have an impact on in the future, maybe in a decade's time. But now we've gone from every single NFT that was pre-merge has now been minted. So I believe that in a decade's time, anything from what we've seen the last few years, they'll have that little bit special source to them. And everything after is now post-merge, where it's not hurting the environment and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see if, even say like 5 years' time, those pre-merge NFTs are still valuable. Even those Yetis and the 1,000-odd NFTs that I burnt in the last year. But it's going to be cool. But talking about
I was just going to say, it's never financial advice. It never will be on this show. But I feel like, NF Teams was minted, in October 2021. So
it was, but we had, I was hoping to get our jerseys out before the merge. And then I thought, well, at least if we do it after, we'll be able to say it was all like eco-friendly and all that sort of stuff, which is a really great thing that's happening here. But NF Teams definitely were a pre-merge NFT project. But yeah, you mentioned that this gives the chance for a lot of big businesses to get into the space now without having that ESG worry. We saw Starbucks enter the NFT space with their loyalty program. So walk us through what their program is, what they're doing, why this is such a big deal.
Yeah, well, I think why it's a big deal is obviously it's a worldwide iconic brand. It obviously didn't do what it set out to do here in Australia locally, but having spent a couple of months in the US earlier this year, it was a stark reminder of just how many Starbucks are on every corner of every city in the entire United States. And I went to quite a number of cities, and I spent quite a lot of money on Starbucks while I was over there too.
Did you try the pumpkin latte or whatever it is?
No, I don't go the sort of, the triple XL whipped cream,
Sugar high,
double caramel, chocolate, 8 sugar special thick shake for breakfast. No,
sounds like a rare NFT.
I just go with the latte. I got to say, look, their coffee is nothing like Australian coffee, or particularly Melbourne coffee. It's better though than some of their other options. I will say that, and it's just convenient to go there, right? There's always one there. It's just easy. So
yeah, the sad fact is that our Macca's coffee is better than 99% of the coffee I've ever had in America.
I would agree with that. Although there are a few good places in. This is going to become the Stephen Greig Talk coffee show, but I like it. I'm for it. There's a couple of places in New York and LA that are good, but ironically, 90% of those are owned by Aussies. They're opening those shops in. But back to Starbucks. Why is it a big deal? Not only are they huge and they're everywhere, but I read during the week they currently have about 20 million people on their loyalty program, or in their loyalty program, I should say. So when you think about that bigger onboarding exercise, some of the interesting takeaways for me with this is they haven't mentioned the word digital collectibles, NFTs, or really Web3 at all. They've used blockchain, I think, a couple of times in sort of some of their quotes and references in their articles, but their program is going to be called Starbucks Odyssey, I should say. And it really, to me, looks like
Moonbirds.
It looks like an extension of their current loyalty program. But interesting enough, they're talking about when customers sort of essentially interact, they are going to be going on quote unquote journeys, right? So rather than sort of saying like, you're upgrading your NFT, or you're doing this or you're doing that, you're actually going on journeys. So to me, journeys is replacing, the old school stamp, really, to a degree that you used to get on coffee cards.
Yeah, and of course, this is what the future of Web3 NFTs will be, where you have no idea that you're even using it. So it's the next step. In Australia, we've got our biggest one is Qantas frequent flyer points. So we have a huge frequent flyer a point system. And of course, eventually, they're going to move to a very similar thing. They'll be watching how Starbucks do, what the reception is, but just being able to have that digitally, and then NFTs to upgrade your flights or stuff on the flight, like all of these different programs. We've got credit card programs. I'm just trying to think of all the different cards that I own that are for these type of programs. And there are a few in my wallet. So eventually you'll be able to have everything in the one wallet. It'll link together well. And yeah, it's just a really exciting use case of Web3 and NFTs. And I'm really interested to see what they do.
Yeah, I've got a little quote here from Starbucks CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, Brady Brewer. We're bullish on the future of these technologies enabling experiences that were not possible before. It's really important that we're looking at it for the long term, given that we're plugging this into our industry-leading massive scale rewards program. We are committed. So I think that's a good statement. The thing about this space, as we know, Steve, like we don't know all the answers yet, right? Like this is sort of this analogy is said, it's done to death, but we didn't know all the use cases of what the internet was going to deliver in the mid to late 90s. And we're in that moment now, right? We just don't know what's coming down the pipe. And I think statements like that are sort of saying like, we're here to experiment. We believe in this thing long term. We're committed to it. And we're going to sort of start small, and we're just going to navigate our way through. And I think it's a really bullish announcement. I'm actually going to sign up to their wait list. It is on Polygon. I didn't mention that off the top as well. So, it's not unsurprising to me that they've gone with Polygon. But, when you think about some of the other things that they can add to holders and benefits and things like that, because one of the things I heard this week when I had a conversation was well, this is stupid. Why don't they just keep their current loyalty
Database.
program, right? Yeah. So, the flexibility, and then just the sheer fact of like, the portability and just, I think there's a lot more that you can do it this way.
Yeah, one of the questions we do always have to ask is, what is it improving? So it is a tough one to answer a lot of the time. So you can say, well, why not leave it as it is? It's a database. What special source or what extra is blockchain and Web3 adding? And I guess that's something we have to think through. We have to see what they're actually creating. We've only got words so far. But yeah, we just have to wait and see. And everything, like you said, is an experiment here. They might try 100 things and 1 or 2 actually work and the customers love it and increases sales and so on. I can even see right now in Australia, we've got McDonald's having their Monopoly game, which is huge. I can see that being a blockchain-based game in the future. So really interested to see what they do, how it's received, and then watch every other company copy. It's going to be really cool.
What do you think of sort of like, we're not quite there yet, and obviously security is a big factor. I've been listening to an awesome podcast this week with Ian Rogers from Ledger, talking with Carly Riley on overpriced JPEGs. Do yourself a favor and listen to that one. But the world of sort of the single wallet sign-on, Steve, and when I think about Starbucks and just sort of doing collaborations with others, like if Starbucks wanted to go out to their 20 million and say, hey, for, 20,000 lucky people, or if you're in this area or whatever, we're doing a collaboration, or there's going to be tickets to this concert or sporting event or whatever, like you can do that with Web2 technologies, but it's just more clunkier, right? It's just a clunkier experience. So
exactly. Just imagine being able to use your Starbucks points to buy a Nike item, or so all these rewards points are very difficult and just work with certain things. So in Australia, Frequent Flyer uses the Maya store and a few other things. But having an actual market and liquidity to be able to convert these points into other tokens and prizes, that's going to be massive too.
Yep. So exciting times. Shout out to our friends at Starbucks that don't make the greatest coffee, but are definitely leading the charge in the Web3 brand space. Steve, we cut you off last week. You've been shattered all week. You didn't get to talk about CloneX. Please give us an update of the wonderful world of clothing lines at the CloneX store.
Sure. So one of the first big companies in the space, Nike, bought CloneX and Artifact Studios. And last week they had their minting, where you could buy clothing and shoes based on your character. So I own a few CloneX characters. I ended up minting all my Murakami, who is a very famous artist, all of his gear, which was socks, hats, shirts, hoodies, however much Nike could sell to me pretty much, and the shoes. My assumption, of course, being that these might have value in the future. I'll never wear them. And then they learned from their last time of minting and burning, and this was a much better experience. So then just today or last night, they closed off the forging. So you get the NFT, and then you can forge it. And that's where you go to their website, pretty much burn it and get a new token. But then you can select where it gets sent, the size, and so on. But yeah, more money for Nike. And this has been an amazing acquisition for them. I'm sure they're very close to making all their money back in under a year. The other thing is, of course, all this clothing has a tag attached to it that you will then be able to link to the NFT. Artifact have talked a lot about their earn token, or there's going to be, like we saw with Izu, I think, walk to earn, probably advertise to earn. So I think that will be the first, with Nike using that system and linking it up to your phone and so on, to actually earn their token by not only advertising the brand, but healthy stuff, copy and step and all that sort of stuff. So that's the CloneX latest news. But then they also mentioned that now that the forging's been done, they're on to their next thing, which is, I think, the next box. So every CloneX person got a cube, I forget what they called it, that opened up and revealed a pair of shoes, crypto dunks with a vial and another box. So I believe that other box is going to be opened in, well, judging by how long they take, another 3 to 6 months. But yeah, interesting times in CloneX ecosystem.
Love it. Thank you for that update. And one of the other projects that is just keeping its head above water during this bear, our friends at Doodles, they announced, was it yesterday or 48 hours ago, they've raised about, was it 54 million US dollars from Alexis Ohanian's VC crew,
and
776 and a few others. Yeah. So
I believe it was
that?
a $750 million valuation, which in this bear market is very impressive. So what we've seen is, I believe the Doodles got up to a 20 ETH floor at one stage, and they hadn't tweeted in over a month. And so the floor has probably dropped a bit more than other projects that had a similar all-time high, and it was near 7 ETH. But they tweeted news that was sort of known. So it was known that they were raising and had raised, but just not the amount. But geez, they've got a lot of money now. But that valuation, I can't see it myself. From a business perspective, if I own Doodles, I would think I've got the much better end of the deal here with that valuation. How it's worth 700 million, I'm not sure. So far, we've seen them be able to sell out a collection. They had the duplicator, and I believe they've had another collection released, but they had come out with, we're going to be making millions and millions of NFTs in the future. They've also partnered with Pharrell. So I'm guessing there's going to be a music studio attached. And all of this does cost money. So 50 million, who knows what their burn rate is? I'm guessing it's $2 to $5 million a month. Maybe not that much, maybe 1 to 2 million. But yeah, it was interesting to see the price of Doodles go from, I think it was 7.3. I was actually on Twitter the moment that announcement came out. So I straight away went to OpenSea, and I was going to buy and try to flip really quickly. So I saw 7.3. I think it went to a high of 8.5. There was about 1,000 ETH of turnover. And then today it's back down under 7.3. So people digested the news. You get FOMO straight away. Everyone's thinking, oh, everyone's going to buy. And then they realize, well, this probably isn't the biggest deal in the world. And of course, everyone starts dumping and it's back where it was. Doodles will probably go. And I believe they've found the retweet button. So they've been retweeting a lot of articles talking about their raise. But I can see them going quiet again. And the truth is, when you're building in this space, there isn't all that much you can say. Bored Ape does a few retweets and everything there, but yeah, it's really hard to keep your social media up during times of building. So yeah, good to see that there's money still coming into the ecosystem. What did you think of the raise and what they've been doing and what they're going to do?
Yeah, I still think Doodle's got a pretty big future ahead of them. The team has obviously been around for a while. Subjectively, I don't mind the art. I'd never picked up one. Would I in the future? Maybe. I think it's got a real shot long term, but yeah, it is going to be interesting. Like it's the same thing we hear with Moonbirds, right, as well, or even CloneX. Is sort of, where's the value going to attribute back to the holders if this becomes, a massive brand, right? And I think from VFriend's perspective, Gary's trying to create these individual characters. There's like 270 of them or 275, and it's sort of like more predicated on, well, if you it's always an audacious statement when you say this, isn't it? But if you own the original Mickey Mouse drawing, or if you own the original Donald Duck or whatever, like what's that worth in decades to come? But obviously we know we can add utility on top of it. But it is going to be interesting if Doodles becomes a household name. Do people want to own one of those original 10,000?
Imagine Doodles becoming a household name and kids all over the world yelling out Doodles.
Well, it is.
Do you think that through?
It is funny that some of these presentations I've done in the last couple of weeks for Web 2 brands, I reference Doodles, and there's always this like
chuckle.
5-year-old chuckle like from like at least 30% of the room. But there was one lady in particular that was really getting a big kick out of it. So I quickly digressed to meme NFT collections and pointed out the rise of the crypto dick butt. So anyway,
that's the adult version of Doodles.
I actually saw someone tweet before, and they said, if crypto is really going to make it, the first transaction on the proof of stake network really needs to be a sale of a crypto dick butt. So
I think you've got your own personal counter of saying crypto dick butt, and you just love saying it.
It's so good. It's so good.
Okay, moving on.
We got to straighten up.
Let's straighten up with a Ponzi scheme, pumping parrots. So, talk us through the pumping parrots.
Well, I got to say, I don't know too much about the pumping parrots, other than the funny thing was they crept up to, I think, nearly, was it 0.6, 0.7, something like that.
I thought I saw close to 1 at one
Okay,
stage.
so on 2 days ago, the average price was 0.84 ETH for a pumping parrot. Now, let me read you this description. Now, this is why.
This is the OpenSea description.
This is why I put it on the docket, right? I thought it was very candid. We all want to make money, and this is your chance to do just that. The pumping parrots love to pump. Let's make this floor price explode. The rules are simple. Flip your NFT at 2x. If you buy at 0.1, sell at 0.2. If you can buy at 0.3, sell at 0.6. If everybody sticks to the plan, we all profit. Let's make some ETH before the merge. I mean, who would not want to get involved with the pumping parrot? Again, not financial advice. Nothing ever is on this show for educational and informational purposes only.
At least they were upfront about what they're trying to do. I've seen thousands of projects try to do the same thing in their Discord saying, and a lot of projects have actually tried to do it programmatically by burning anything under the floor. If you posted your NFT under a certain floor price, they would burn it. Actually, I think the Gods had a 33.3% tax if you listed under mint price. So all these projects have tried many, many ways to make sure there's a lot of turnover. The floor price keeps rising. We've seen how most of these end, and I'm not sure where the pumping parrot's current price is, but as soon as it reaches a certain point and even 3 or 4 people start undercutting, you know what's to come. So it's like anything in this space, it seems. If you get in early, you probably do quite well. But knowing when to pull the plug on these things, I think people are just tired and wanting to have a bit of fun in this space at the moment. And of course, we say never go into these things. You're going to lose money. But yeah, it's just the general market and the people in the market just trying to make some ETH, I guess.
Well, the pumping parrots have become the dumping parrots because we're down to a 0.1. We're a 0.12 floor now. So
was it a free mint, or did you have to pay for the mint as well?
I actually don't know on the pumping parrots one.
Let's never talk of the pumping parrots again.
I've got to get into some alpha groups where there's got some of these free mints going on. So anyone out there, add me in.
Let's talk about. I'm still in all your points, so it's good. Let's talk about another project that's pumped that might have some longevity. On my timeline, I've seen a lot of talk about, I think it's Renga. Again, this looks like every other Azuki style project, but it's got the box and then the actual NFT. So you can buy a Renga mint box and then you open it up and then get the NFT. We've seen the price pump a fair bit. I think it got up to 0.8 for the actual revealed characters and 1.5 for the unrevealed. And I've seen a few larger accounts start tweeting about it, getting excited about it. And it seems it only takes 2 or 3 of these larger accounts to really get into a project and start sharing on Twitter, and the momentum builds pretty quickly. What are your thoughts on Renga, and have you even seen it on your timeline as well?
Definitely seen it on the timeline. This week has been quite busy, so I haven't, dove into anything, but I've seen it pop up on the timeline. The artwork is, to me, so. There's quite a bit of volume here, just even looking at OpenSea, for the Rengas here. Lot of sales over the last couple of days. We've got sort of 847 sales a couple of days ago. Yesterday at 513 sales. So in this particular market, that's quite a lot. So there's no wonder that the floor, what was it? Yesterday we had nearly an average floor price of 1 ETH. When you think about that's really sort of early 2022, 2021 style numbers.
Yeah, it's I because I'm gonna release players in, who knows, sometime early next year. I keep looking into all these projects and what makes them pump. I looked at Renga website, and apart from the art, I don't see any utility or forward going. There's a story that they're talking about, so maybe some comics or anything like that. But yeah, it's really difficult, and it's still, to this day, I don't know the specifics to get a project to pump. Anyone that can figure that out, of course, they make a mint in this space, but it's just a weird one. Like, the art is fine, but if that's it, then I'm not sure we see this price hold. The other thing I did mention to you before we came on was the one thing I do miss is actually minting a project, being excited for the reveal, going to OpenSea, hitting that refresh button, and then seeing that I got a floor NFT. But that 2 seconds before the reveal is always really exciting. And I haven't minted anything that reveals like a rarity or anything in probably 6 months. Like, everything I'm minting now are sort of like the CloneX stuff, the Adidas gear, the so on. So it's not actually a new project. So it is the one thing I really miss, the sort of degenerate gambling side of NFTs, and that luck factor. That's what I really miss at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You should have bought Oddities because they were your favorites, obviously, after reveal.
How are they doing? I'm sure they're still holding up pretty well.
Oddities actually had a mini pump earlier this week. I remember I woke up and the floor had risen by about 0.2, 0.3 ETH. There was like 100 and 120 sales overnight. And I asked a couple of people in Proof Discord, what is the reason for this? And no one seemed to know. So there you go.
Yeah, well, it guarantees you a Raven, right?
Yes, but also the Raven, Project Raven, they're actually going to be called Mythics.
Oh, Mythics. Sorry.
Yeah. So Ravens was the trademark leak from a few months ago, but they've ended up calling them Mythics. But so shout out to Renga anyway. Good to see people getting involved.
And it doesn't seem
liquidity.
It doesn't seem like a pump and dump project either. It seems, oh, well, we'll see how it goes.
We will. Moving on to marketplaces, Magic Eden, Aussie-founded company, cut their teeth with Solana, dipping into Ethereum-based NFTs now. Steve, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole on their extensive messaging around this thing they're introducing called MetaShield, but I suppose the TLDR is they are looking to, I don't know if enforce is the right word, royalties, or at least give creators and collectors options to set royalties that would be enforced on the platform, is my understanding, but I could be butchering this.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it enough either. But look, on their own platform, of course they can enforce royalties. I think they were talking about a sort of, in my 2-second read of their Twitter thread, maybe even wrapping a token or something like that. So you've got these creator tools that you can use via them. And then if your NFT shows up on one of these other platforms that have 0% royalties, something will happen. It will either show in the metadata somehow that this should have a royalty and you're buying it sort of illegally, if that, or maybe the actual image changes to something else that says don't buy. But yeah, it's a strange one. I don't think this is the way to fix the issue. Why should Magic Eden be sort of the source of truth on an NFT? It also makes that creator have to use their minting contract or something like that. So without knowing enough about it, it's good that they're trying something, and that's what Magic Eden's probably known for. They can't be the biggest because you've got OpenSea, but they can be the most innovative. So they always try new things. And yeah, we'll see how it goes, and hopefully we can learn a bit more about how they're going to enforce royalties. But yeah, interesting one.
Yeah, I'll just read a couple of bits from their Twitter thread here. This was the second thread they put out yesterday, talking about clearing up misconceptions. Now, I know that Steve and I haven't painted the clearest picture yet of what they're actually proposing, but they've said here, is Magic Eden taking control of my NFTs? No, Magic Eden isn't changing anyone's NFT. MetaShield is a tool for creators. Creators have choices on how to use it. Most NFTs are mutable. Creators have always had the ability to change their NFTs. Does Magic Eden care about freedom and choice? Yes. Like collectors, creators should have the freedom to defend their business. Re-decentralization. Most NFTs are mutable and collectors have purchased them by their choice. We're not centralizing NFTs any more than the original technology.
So that to me sounds like it's going to be like we've done with NFTs. Just it's not going to be on IPFS. It's just going to be on a database. So then you can change metadata. So it could be a simple case of if it was bought on this other royalty-free platform, you change the image or you change the name of it or something in the metadata. So that's what they're saying. Most NFTs are immutable. You can change metadata. You can change the images. You can change everything about it. So tomorrow, I could change the whole NFTs thing because we're on an AWS server. We will eventually move once all name changes have been made, graphic changes, and so on. But there are a lot of use cases where you would want them immutable if there's upgradable NFTs and so on. But yeah, it sounds like they're going to be changing metadata if they're bought with zero royalty.
Yeah. Tax. We had some news
favorite topic
from the ATO, the Australian Tax Office.
Good news from the ATO.
Good news, yeah, absolutely sensible news. I would have thought the outcome or the guidance around certain airdrops for ApeCoin, ENS, and I think there was another specific example. I think it might have been the Gnosis Safe airdrop that was there. Essentially, the way I understand it, Steve, and the way that we've spoken about it before is, this initial coin essentially that's been airdropped is not classified as income. It's essentially, it's when you sell it, it becomes a taxable event. So if you claimed 2008 coin hypothetically and you sold it for $10 Aussie or whatever it might be, you would be up for a tax liability of, a taxable event, I should say, of what would that be? $20,000 if you had 2,000 it and you sold it at $10. This makes a lot of sense to me. You're still paying your tax. With such a volatile asset, I just don't think you can treat it like income. You would hear stories of people that have claimed it at $20 Australian and then blinked or went to the kitchen and it come back and it's at $15 Australian, and all of a sudden they haven't sold any of it, they haven't even got to use any of it yet, and they're up for a massive tax bill. So this makes a lot of sense to me. I'm very pleased that logical outcomes have been driven here. So not sure what your thoughts are.
So who did we have? Was it David from My Crypto Tax Calculator?
Shane Brunette.
Shane, that's it.
Crypto Tax Calculator.
And this just shows that Shane had told us that their understanding was that it is taxed straight away and you would have to pay tax. And he did mention a lot that we really don't know what we're doing because you need guidance from the ATO. And now the ATO has come out and we mentioned this, the sensible approach, the one that makes sense was that you would have a zero cost basis. And then when you sold, then that would be the taxable event. So like you mentioned, it's just like getting a stock for $0, and then you have the exact same thing with capital gains tax. So if you hold it for a year, and this is only applicable to Australia, every other country has different things, but if you hold it for a year, you get a 50% discount. So let's say I had 1,000 of them and held it for a year and 1 day, sold them for $100,000. I've got tax on $50,000 of that 8 coin, and depending on your tax bracket, you pay that percentage. Makes complete sense. To tax it the second you got it is ridiculous, and of course the ATO has made the right decision here. Yep. There are a lot of other things I'm still questioning, but it gives me a bit of confidence that if I do what seems right, and this was my thinking, this was how I was going to do all the airdrops, then it seems the ATO is going to eventually say, yeah, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. And yeah, so really good news this weekend from the ATO.
Yeah, and I've had discussions with people in terms of not your ERC20 tokens, but a few people have said to me over the last few months, oh, things like, any airdrop will be a taxable event straight away. You just work out the market price. Now, these are people that have never had an NFT in their life. So I went very deep into the weeds and gave them tangible examples.
Oh, they love you.
And no. I did it in a very diplomatic way to say, like, you have to understand that airdrops are not necessarily these things that we always just shake a money tree, right? Like if you've had a Bored Ape, or if you've had, an ENS domain, you have had a pretty reasonable last 12 months, right? But a lot of airdrops are utility based, like the Grail. Like I sold my Grails pass, right? Now, is that going to be a taxable event? Most likely, right? Because I've sold it. But that Grails pass, had I not sold it and actually claimed my Grail, based on the logic that some people were talking about, is they said, oh, well, when did you get the Grails pass? I'm like, I don't know. I woke up one morning and it was in my wallet, right? Oh, well, yeah. What was the market value of it when it got airdropped? And I'm like, that it bounces around incredible when you get it.
And they make it too complicated. They're like, well, you should take the price of ETH at the time it was airdropped, and then when you converted it to the Grail, you wanted that price difference you have to pay tax on, and now you've got a new price. It's just ridiculous. It should be.
But if you actually use that mint pass to get your Grail,
they're saying that's essentially
but that's just a voucher. That's like your redeemable voucher, right?
Exactly,
You're not going to
because
tax
it has
someone on
some sort of value. You could have sold it for this much, but you chose to redeem it instead. But of course, the simple thing is, you've now got the Grail. Let's say you went all the way and got the Grail. When you sell that Grail, that's the profit that you've made. You haven't made any money up until the second you sell that Grail. So your cost basis is zero. What you sell it for is your profit. And then depending on if you held it for longer a year or not, that's your capital gains tax. I don't see what's so hard to understand about that.
I think for most use cases, what you just said then makes complete sense. We won't spend too much time on this, but I also think there will be some other nuanced cases around hobbies and gaming activities and potentially art pieces as well. But I think that we could spend a whole show on that. But I agree. I think overall, this is really good news for Australians. If you're in America, we don't know your jurisdiction or tax law. So,
well, none of this is financial advice, blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
So let's... I know... I'm still in all your things because I want to hear from you, not from me.
Okay.
I know you're a boxing, MMA fan, all that sort of stuff. You told me that you're going to be able to watch a boxing match in Decentraland this weekend.
Yes.
So tell me all about it.
Yeah, so it's the trilogy of Triple G and Canelo, two boxers that have had 2 fights, obviously, already. 2 very well-known boxers. I have watched both fights. Their third fight is going to be... I believe there was a draw, wasn't it? Jeez, stretching my memory. I think one of the fights was a draw. It's years ago, honestly, when I saw that this trilogy was coming up. I think the first fight might have been something like 2014 or 15.
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe NFTs are just warping my memory too. But DAZN, it's odd spelling. It's DAZN, but it's pronounced DAZN. It was actually founded, I believe, by the ex-head of ESPN. And ultimately, from what I can see, is you buy a Canelo PFP for $65 USDC. So it's denominated in USDC, which is interesting. And
is this Polygon? I'm guessing.
I actually don't know what it's being minted on, but I see that if you purchase the Canelo PFP, you will get access to watch the fight in DAZN Decentraland. It's a mouthful here, but watch the fight in the DAZN Decentraland Metaverse Stadium. That is needing a copywriter right there. But you'll also go into the entry to win a mutant ape. Looks like a service mutant as well from the picture they've got on the website. You'll also get 2 months of free DAZN. Are they paying us for this plug, by the way? Shout out to the DAZN. We're still getting a sponsorship out of this, are we?
We're 19 episodes deep, damn it.
And you also get one entry for a VIP trip to Canelo's next fight. So obviously Canelo's not retiring after this fight. Look, I think the takeaway for this one is pretty interesting. We have seen in other metaverse events, including the AO Art Ball build at Melbourne Park earlier this year. I remember going in there with my little avatar and watching a Stefan Edberg throwback match from like the 90s or something. But it was an interesting thing, right, to think about repurposing old footage and old IP and utilizing that as a bit of a pull to bring people into your metaverse event. This one in particular, actually shout out to also the VRC who did something similar in Flem with the Melbourne Cup Carnival last year.
Yep.
But the interesting thing was there, I think you could watch, and this probably goes to their broadcast deals with people like Channel 10 or whatever, was I think you could watch the first couple of races on the Melbourne Cup day, but you couldn't actually watch the main race. So it was like a combination of like watching Z Run horse races and then also watching like real horse racing, depending on what the caliber of the race was. But this is actually a massive fight. This will be on in pubs and sports bars all around the world on the weekend. So, maybe if you were going to get the fight anyway on your big screen at home, maybe you don't pay for it and you go this route, and it gives you the Canelo PFP, but it also gives you a bunch of other add-ons, right? So it's an interesting model to me. Like, would I prefer to watch a big boxing match on my TV than Decentraland? Yes, right now, like where the technology stands. And, I'd be on a little bit of tender hooks in terms of, is Decentraland going to crash? Because often that happens if you don't have a computer, it might overheat and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's just an interesting concept because I think what's happened so far is you're sort of getting the scraps of events with things in Decentraland. Like you're either getting old things from 20 years ago, or you're getting sort of not the primary races in the sense of the Melbourne Cup. This is, you're actually getting the top of the food chain content here. So interesting by DAZN.
Yeah, this seems actually valuable. Like you're getting your money's worth. So in Australia, if we want to watch a boxing match, we pretty much have to pay $50 minimum to watch that match. So for 65 US, what's that, about 85, 90 Australian, you get in a PFP that you get to keep. Who knows if that has future utility, if it's got rarity involved, but you've got a sort of ticket. It's your ticket that you watch the event. You get to watch it. As you mentioned, TV is probably better, but you could hook up your laptop and probably zoom in. One of the interesting things, and this will come in the future as well, we've seen it with the improbable lands with other deeds. The spatial audio is going to be a big thing, because it'll be great to be watching that boxing match with other NFT and boxing nerds and be able to hear people or sit next to a mate and talk to them and also hear the crowd watching. That'll be very cool when that happens. But then, the prize of the mutant ape going into a draw to win other things, the 2 months free access. So this is very close to the value that if you're buying it without the NFT anyway. So really interesting. And hopefully we see a lot more sporting organizations do similar things.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to be really interesting to see if, boxing promoters are well-renowned for not giving true pay-per-view numbers. But it will be interesting to see whether there's even any numbers leaked of how many people take this offer up. I will not be personally, because I'll be on the Gold Coast for Oz CryptoCon. But I got to say, if I wasn't doing anything this Sunday, I'd probably give it a 50-50 chance that I would buy it, just to sort of experiment and just.
Well,
to
you would have
get
been able to also count how many other people were in there at
That's
any one
true.
time.
Yeah, so maybe we need to tap someone on the shoulder that's got the inside track
You would think Decentraland would be willing to give out those sort of numbers. But you just mentioned it. You're this weekend on the Gold Coast. You're speaking at the event. But the thing I'm more interested in, earlier this week, you announced the dates for NFT Fest in Melbourne. You knew when I was on holiday, but tell us the dates. Tell us what's happening. You also put out a tweet, I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday, talking about your stance on paying speakers, paying they're not volunteers, they're going to be paid staff. Talk us through when it's happening, what you've got lined up, and everything. Because even though I can't be there because I'll be on holiday, I'm really excited to learn more about NFT Fest.
Yeah, massive week for NFT Fest. We did announce dates on Tuesday. It's going to be the 23rd and 24th of November. We also announced the destination city, which will be Melbourne, my hometown. We are yet to reveal where the venue will be, but it'll obviously be in Melbourne. It's really exciting. I think we've only sort of 70 days out from the event, but we've had short run-ups to events previously, and sort of it's a way that sort of my co-founders, Rochelle, Steve, and I sort of like to operate. We want to build a lot of momentum going into this event. Obviously, it's going to be a little challenging in the bear market, but the sentiment we got earlier this week was really, really strong across Twitter and LinkedIn, and some various Discords that I was in as well. But ultimately, we see this event as being an extension of what we've done in the past. In September last year, when we ran our very first NFT Fest, the inaugural one, we had about 3,600 online registrations. The only reason we did it fully online was because we were still in COVID lockdowns here in Melbourne. We sort of what I call NFT Fest 1.5 earlier this year in March, where we teamed up with Blockchain Australia to run the NFT Day, which you were part of, Steve, obviously being on a panel there with Danielle Weber and Maddie, DTL blogger, and Giant Swan. It was a great day out. People really enjoyed it. We had a lot of people online watching it. For this year, the standalone event, 2-day event, as I mentioned, 23rd, 24th of November, will be primarily an IRL event in Melbourne. And obviously, we're very excited by that, particularly when I think back to the 6 weeks that I spent in the US, and just having events that people can congregate at, meet at, have meetings, have a few drinks together, and just take the relationships that we have every day on Twitter and Discord and actually move them into an IRL environment, I think is incredibly healthy for the space. And we know, even though we live, these primarily digital lives, we record our podcasts from different states every week, Steve. There's nothing like still meeting people in real life and deepening 100%. That connection. So we're really excited. There's a lot of work ahead of us in the coming sort of 70 days. But what you did reference something we put out earlier this week. We started this event, NFT Fest, and there's a lot of other NFT events that are popping up all over the place now, which is great. And I feel like I know nearly every one of the founders, and they're all got their own style, they're all their own energy. Some of them are more focused on higher quantity of events and more meetup styles. For us, and particularly with Steve Vallis, my co-founder, who's the outgoing CEO of Blockchain Australia, he's got a lot of relationships over the last 5 or 6 years, in government organizations and incumbent brands. And he has really been flying the flag for crypto and Web3 in general to try to get favorable crypto regulation and just try to move the conversation from it's a scam and it's this and it's that to actually there's legitimate businesses being built, just like your NFTs one, Steve. So I feel like, with Steve's knowledge there and Rochelle, who's worked at Blockchain Australia for a while, and then my connections on the sort of more the projects side and just being in the weeds globally on all of these NFT projects, that we've got a really nice tight-knit team that we can bring together a really, really strong agenda for. The big sticking point for us was, how do we, we're going to incur a lot of hard costs, right, running this as an IRL event for essentially for the first time. The hard costs were covered by Blockchain Australia earlier this year in March. So essentially it's coming out of Steve, Rochelle and I's treasury, if you like. But we didn't want to make this thing go from, a community-led event to a complete commercialization event, right? So we decided, well, how do we get a happy medium? How do we make sure that we're not stuck with, a massive bill at the end of this, but we still keep that community vibe? And one of the things that, I've noticed even speaking in a lot of events over the last 6 months is, and I understand it too, that many of these are not paid gigs, right? And, sometimes you're getting a platform and you're very grateful for that. But if you've got expenses flying in, or just, you're giving up some of your time, it's nice just to get a little bit of money back. So we thought it would be a good thing to offer 50% gross ticket revenue back to all speakers, and some volunteers that are going to put up their hand to help us deliver the event. So whatever we make gross from ticket sales for NFT Fest 2022, 50% of that is going directly back to speakers. So, we've had really good sentiment and positive sentiment from that this morning. So really excited. I mean, I said to a few people, it does make us start from a little bit further back in terms of covering hard costs. But, we just have to roll the dice and hope that, we're good enough to be able to deliver a good event that's going to get people excited. So overall, Steve, very, very excited to launch NFT Fest 2022 this week. If you head to nftfest.com.au, you can pre-register for tickets. We don't have the tickets out yet, but that is coming very, very soon. We also do, I don't want to turn this too much into a pitch fest, but we do have a sponsorship deck in a pre-release format available. So if you want that, you can probably DM me directly at Greg Oakford on Twitter. And I should say too, Steve, we apologize for rugging you. You will be on holidays. It's unfortunate. We were actually looking at the week before, but the venue we've got in mind didn't necessarily line up with those dates. So we apologize to you, but maybe we're going to have to get some NF teams representation anyway there at NFT Fest.
I think we'll have a few guys come in. Just to end it, will your buddy Kevin be there in any sense? Because I was very jealous of you this week. You got a reply from probably the one person on all of Twitter that I would love a reply from, Tim Ferriss. But being a big part of the Moonbirds and Proof ecosystem, is there a chance Kevin speaks via a live feed at the event? Have you even broached the topic with the Proof guys?
I think there's a chance. I don't want to I'm not trying to be sheepish with my words. I think there's a chance. We've had an initial chat with the Proof and Moonbirds sort of staff just around what may or may not be done. The problem we're going to have as an Aussie event that we're running up against is we are running it essentially very close to Thanksgiving, and there's also Art Basel that's the first week in Miami in December. So from a potential to get some of these bigger notable projects out IRL might be a little bit too much for this year. Could we have a video hookup potentially? I think possibly. I would love to make it happen, but I also don't want to promise anything at this early stage. But yeah, you did reference a tweet earlier this week where I had replied to Kevin on a Burb follow Burb, I think, and I tagged Tim Ferriss in saying when Tim Moonbird, and he came back and said, he referenced my Moonbird, which is obviously one half of the Ape and Bird thumbnail, and said that, the hard eyes really, what did he say? The eyes really pop or something like that.
Something like that, or match his eyes. Or
match his eyes. He was engaging in a bit of banter, was really what was happening there. So I wouldn't be surprised if old Tim pops up with a Moonbird PFP at some point. And can you do it sooner rather than later, Tim? Because the floor keeps dropping. No, I'm.
Awesome. Well, that's another week in the bag. Episode 20 next week. Wow. I can't believe we've done this 19 times already. Looking forward to hearing more about NFT Fest and also a recap of what happened on the Gold Coast over the weekend. So until next week, we'll see you all later.
See you later.